We'll see you at 4:30.
Let me see.
Okay.
Welcome everybody to Sibling Speaks Live. Yep. My name is Janice Stewart, and I am the founder of Special Needs Siblings. This is a new conversation that we are starting, and we are going to have a great time today. Welcome, Ify Philippa.
Hi.
Coming from Nigeria, and we are just so glad to have her with us today.
So
we also have one. We have Jada here with me, and this is my daughter. She's 11, and we are going to just have a conversation. This is Candid. We're just speaking, and we want to hear from you all as well. So if you have any questions on this, go ahead and drop it in the Q&A box, and let's get this started. So Ify,
hi.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm a lawyer. I'm a British Nigerian lawyer, so I practice in Nigeria and I practice in the UK, but I'm fully residing now in Abuja, Nigeria. Okay. And of course, I'm a sib. My younger sister her name is Sandra, and she's 25. She is my best friend, and I'm her legal guardian now. So she lives with me, but shuttles between living with me in Abuja and living in Delta to stay with my family. So my parents are still alive, but I wanted to make sure that I was her legal guardian before they passed or anything like that. I wanted to make sure that they knew that she was going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is it just you and your sister?
No, I have the boys.
You're the girls.
Yeah, we're just, both of us are the girls. And then we have older cousins, sisters as well. So I have 2 older brothers, and I have 2 younger sisters, adopted sisters, and the boy and I. So 6 of us. And yeah, there's a big family, but compared to the extended family, we have more boys in the family. Okay. So we're like just a few girls, so we all kind of like bunk together.
Wonderful, wonderful. So Jada, I have Jada here, and we just want to ask, we have a couple questions, and we like to talk. What question you have first, Jay?
You guys?
Yeah.
Okay. Go, Jay.
These are sibling conversations that we're having, and so
the one I just did?
Yeah.
Honest conversations.
These are honest conversations. We're talking to siblings. We're hearing siblings' perspectives and just want to know more. I am not a sibling. I'm a parent. I started this organization to get to know how to be a better parent and listen and learn from the siblings in our families. So Jada, take it away. What questions do you have for Ify?
When you were younger, was there a lot of kids with disabilities, or was your sister one of the only ones?
Not one of the only ones. I think coming from Nigeria, you have to look at the African perspective, and we have a different cultural background, and we have a different scope on how we see things. So there were a lot of children with disabilities, but most times because of the stigma here, a lot of people don't take their kids out. So I didn't grow up seeing, kids with disabilities, but I always knew that they were, because I have a sister living with autism, but nobody around me seemed to be, in a sense, because maybe they weren't taking their kids out, but I always knew that they were. And as I grew up, I got to see more people with, their own siblings, but it was just so different because people would not say they had a child with a disability.
Did you and your sister ever get in big arguments?
No, no big arguments. Maybe fights over dolls and stuff, but never big arguments. So just little sibling, in-home rivalries.
What is the age difference between you and your sister?
9 years.
9 years, okay.
Yeah. So she's more my baby, somewhat. She's more my baby. Yeah. Jada, what's the age gap with your sibling?
4 years.
Yeah. Who's older?
My brother.
Okay. All right. That's great.
Do you find have you met a lot of siblings in your area? No, not at school or anything?
One. There's one person. And he had an older sister. And she is got made fun of one of his friends. So there was a boy in my third grade class, and his older sister had autism, and one of his friends made fun of her, so they kind of just stopped talking to each other because.
How old is he?
He's same age as me, 11.
Same age as you. Okay. I think, you know what, it's very hard for kids to understand certain things on their own. So it might just be, you know, he doesn't know better. That's it. It's not even about, you know, making fun of somebody. It's about the knowledge of why you're making fun of somebody. So that child, it could just be a harmless thing to him. It might seem harmless to him, but, you know, in the bigger picture, if you don't understand something, it's so hard, you know, for you to see it like that. So it could, you know, it's really about the knowledge and the advancement. But I mean, you're very intelligent. So I hope that you can, you know, teach them better and educate kids your age. I mean, would you feel more comfortable if you know that there are more students in your school that have other siblings like you? Would you be more comfortable?
Probably.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well,
See how we can get more peers.
Have you ever had experiences like that, Jada? Where someone makes fun of your brother or does something that makes you feel?
Yeah. Well, one time my brother was on the swings and he had a seizure, and these kids were laughing at him and saying, "He's dead. Is he dead?" And just kind of like making fun of him and laughing.
And how did that make you feel?
How did that make you feel?
Very angry and sad because they don't get to have a say, because most people with autism and epilepsy are not very verbal, and they don't really all know what's happening and don't know what other people are saying, so they don't get to have a say. But that's where their siblings should go and talk to them or tell somebody that they're making fun of your sibling.
Did you experience something like that growing up? Yeah, that was very normal. And like I was saying before, you need to find ways to express yourself, especially when you're having to inform the other person that's not, you know, educated about your sibling. For me, it was very different because at the time there were no outlets, there were no support groups. I mean, in the house, I had that support. I had my parents, I had, you know, my other siblings. We all talked about it. We all shared our feelings about it. But for someone outside, it was hard to express, you know, that information, to say, don't talk to my sibling like this, because I knew they didn't understand what it was. But for, you know, a lot of generally kids, they just say mean things sometimes. And for me, the way I expressed my own anger was, you know, through trying to see how much I was going to express that anger through hurting them or fighting or something. So it was a very turbulent age for me at a time, because all I could express was just, okay, I needed to get this person to stop doing this. And it was either with, you know, my fist or, you know, me saying worse words as well. And it didn't help because it seemed now that I was now the bully.
Okay.
You understand? And it took my parents having to sit me down, have me express my feelings, have me express my anger and what it was that I felt towards it, for me to better express to another child when they made fun of my sister that, you know, this isn't her fault and this isn't something that she can control in this place. And you know what, why don't you come with me and see how she is in a different way, and love her in a different way. And my sister's very, she's musically inclined, and she loves dancing and she loves music. And most times when I would invite kids back to my house and they saw her doing all these things, it was very different for them. And they were like, oh, I didn't know they could, you know, she could do that. And that gave them a different life. So I grew up with friends that loved my sister just the way I did because of the way I projected her to them. And it helped cement that love. I've had friends over the years that will check in on my sister before they check in on me, because they take her, they take her as their babies as well. So I mean, I'm really sorry you had to go through that, Jada, and it's really, really important that you understand that the anger is valid. It's not easy for you to hear mean words about your sibling and just keep quiet or just not feel anything about it. But the way you express that anger, that makes you a bigger person. And the most thing that you can do for anybody is, inform them, give them the right knowledge, and help them understand what love is.
Thank you.
Did you have any other questions on there, girl? Even some of the stuff you already said before we went live. Yeah. We were having conversation before we went live. So go ahead and ask again. Because now we're sharing it with everybody. So this is good stuff. You want to hear?
Was it hard to fit in?
With my peers?
Yeah.
No, really. Because now it was two things. I went to a boarding school from when I was about 9.
Okay.
So I left home quite quickly, and I felt like I grew up quite quickly. And for me, with my peers, I had 2 options. I either don't tell them about my sister because I was in a boarding school and I was miles away from her, and I mean, they might never get to meet her, or I tell them about her and then give them the chance to learn. At the time, I started with the wrong option. So I started with not telling them, because I'm like, I need to fit in. I need to know why I'm here. I need to know, understand this boarding school system and save myself. But as time went on, it was because she's so roped around me, and she was always the first person I will ask of when I was on the phone with my parents. I would always ask about her. They got to, who is Sandra? Who's Boo Boo? I call her Boo Boo. And it was like, you're always talking about Boo Boo. Who's Boo Boo? And I was like, that's my sister. And I had to explain. So it became a thing of joy to just talk about her to my friends. So eventually it led up to me just, saying anything and everything, even to strangers, even till now. I would just talk about her to strangers, and it helped me. So I got to fit in more with my friends by expressing that love and that's, that understanding. But for a very long time, I don't think they understood. They just knew I loved my sister, and that was okay.
It's great. Curious, what do you think, what would you tell someone that doesn't have a sibling, like a peer? Like how are ways that they can support a sibling? Like, what is that? Do we just ask the question? Like, what does your sister have? Or what does your brother have? Or, how do you get past that awkwardness in the beginning when you're trying to meet somebody, and how would you prefer to be approached, I suppose?
I think the awkwardness is part of the conversation. There's no way you can, accept you're part of that life. You would always have that awkwardness, and it's okay. It's not something to be weirded by or, angered by. It's valid for them not to understand where you're coming from as a sibling. So what you would just encourage them to do is let them see how easy it is for you to have that conversation. I think your easiness will make it easy for them to ask you questions and see how they can be part of that, that life, that conversation. A lot of the time when you're really caged about, pushing out this information, I see a lot of siblings feel as though it's a personal thing. Let me keep it to myself. And by caging that information, the other person already sees that. They have that, they're feeling that aura of you. They know, like, okay, this person doesn't want to talk about it. I'm just not going to talk about it. We're just going to ignore that. But if you are having that conversation, you're going to ease them into it. So the first thing you are going to do with friends and family or co-workers is to ease that conversation in. You can start with little things, not the whole big picture. You can start with little things and say, oh, my brother does this, or my sister does that. And then it's easy for them to maybe contribute, because maybe they have a neurotypical sibling that does that. But if you're just waiting for them to get it immediately, it's not going to work because they don't have that life. So you also have to understand that their experience and where they're coming from is not their fault. Okay. So even if there's that awkwardness, you need to embrace it and just get them to understand that this is part of your life. You know, this is part of what you live with on a daily basis, but give them little chunks for them to come to you. Don't
bring everything. Don't overload.
Yeah, don't bring everything. Like, don't just dump it on them. Yeah, because they might not be able to handle it. And then that awkwardness stays, you know, longer than it should.
Okay. That's good. That's good to know. That's really good to know. How you feel about that, Jen? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even as a parent, like, we don't know everything. I know I don't have all the answers. And so this is why we ask the questions. And that's why I ask siblings to know how to best approach an awkward situation, or the silence, or
the silence,
the stimming, or, you know, you see your brother doing certain things. And how do we explain that? And it's important to educate siblings on disabilities, or just the things that are going on.
Things, yeah.
Yeah. So,
was it easy for you to talk to them about it?
No, it didn't start off that way. I tried to protect them. And that's what I thought I was doing. But they were always there. So I thought that by protecting them, trying to keep him from his seizures or keep him from different things, that I was doing the right thing. And it took a long time for me to realize that I was really hindering them because I wasn't educating on them on what was actually going on. And there was not anything wrong with Christian per se that I had to hide. Like, this is something we should talk about. And these are things that we should be able to address, and opening up the conversation for them to be able to talk and express their feelings and, you know, just discuss different things. So I think that that's where special needs siblings started over here for us, is me trying to get into it. Yes. So you have anything else on that paper, Jay? We're just really thankful that you agreed to come and join us on Sibling Speaks Live. This is our first episode, everybody, and we're just really excited to have Ify on here with us and sharing her personal story and everything. So you're a lawyer and you have a nonprofit.
Yes.
Is that because of your sister? Like, is that?
Yes, it was founded in honor of her. So we had started a sibling peer support group in the UK from about 2010, thereabout. But I was looking at moving back to Nigeria after my studies, and I was thinking of what to do. And then it just, you know, why don't you move this and do a bigger thing and start a nonprofit? And it was a bit scary because, to be honest, all of my trainings from when I was a teenager, I had been doing different trainings on the side, aside my law career. I've been doing trainings on special needs. I was doing trainings on autism, and just for her, it wasn't so much for other families. I just thought, you know what, for her. I was so focused on her, I didn't see the need that other siblings would have or other people would have. I just thought, oh, everyone's being taken care of because, you know, nobody was asking me how I was. So I'm just going to, you know, take care of myself. Yeah. But having to be part of that peer group opened my eyes to what we can do, especially for younger siblings, especially in the African diaspora. And that those conversations are hardly spoken in homes. Like, you know, like this environment in Africa. So I wanted to expose that. So we started the foundation. We registered it in 2014 in the UK and then 2018 in Nigeria to open up that vacuum and see how we can reach more siblings and see how we can have that conversation, especially to reach parents, because we found, you know, parents are overwhelmed by the situation, and then they're also overwhelmed by, you know, what is going on with the child in question, that sometimes they do miss out on what's going on with the other siblings in the home. And then not because it's intentional, but sometimes there's a neglect. You know, there's that neglect, and then, you know, you need to carry everybody along, whether you like it or not. Your other kids are almost mini parents with you. They're almost mini parents. They have their own emotional need. They have their own mental need based on what is going on with their sibling. So you need to recognize that, and you need to put some sort of structure that helps their well-being as much as yours and as much as the other, the other child. So we started that with trainings and then just looking out for all the siblings, and the connection has just been amazing. Having to meet siblings from all over the world and having to have almost very similar conversations. And these are conversations we can't have with our parents.
And that's it.
Yeah,
have with each other.
These are conversations you can have with an educator or a therapist. But when you have the conversation with another sibling, it's almost like stars are just flying. You're like, that is exactly how I feel about my sibling. So that conversation needs to be had. That peer support group has to be there.
It's so important. And I'm so glad to hear you say that. Did you notice differences with the UK versus Nigeria since you've been in both? What are some of the differences in the sibling conversations and even like the disability conversations?
Oh, the disability conversation is very muted.
Okay. Is that in Nigeria or Nigeria?
In Nigeria. Okay. In Africa, in a sense. So you have a generation like our parents now, they're in their early 50s, late 50s, and the conversation of that generation is very muted because for them, it's not something they understand. So a lot of them fight it. There's a lot of denial in that aspect. So they don't even want you to bring it up. It's almost like whatever is going on with that child will, it will phase out. So having that conversation is very, very hard. So maybe that was the reason that made it harder for younger people. Whereas you have a younger generation that is semi-open to it, just trying to walk their way around it. Yeah, they're just trying to fill it out, especially young parents. They still haven't been exposed to the trainings, to the understanding. So the conversation here is very muted, and it's very supported with religion. So you have a bigger issue there, and then you have a huge issue of stigma because it's almost like an isolated thing here. Once you have a child with a disability or some sort of special needs, it's almost like you are now a private, isolated family, and you keep it to yourself, and you nurture it, and you hide it, and you stay in that cocoon. But if you don't talk, you can't get help.
No, and it doesn't get any better. And that's funny. You say that about religion and stuff, and I think that we have that same issue here sometimes. We're trying to pray it away like it's something that we, like a curse or something that we can just kind of wish it away or like get it. Who did this to me or who did this to him and who's responsible? Yeah. And am I going to get it? And is my, so these are conversations that I'm really happy that we can have.
It's a big fear, and it's projected, even with the knowledge that's out there now and the information that's out there, it's almost impossible for you not to have that conversation in this day and age with someone still thinking maybe this might be spiritual, and you're like, okay, I'll let you have that. Right. But can we talk about this? So it's a very different situation here, and majorly because for you to get that reorientation, you have to do a lot of work to get that reorientation first with the parents before you're even trying to reach the siblings, before you're even trying to get them resources and information. So you're having to break down so many walls just to start off with. So that's the bigger issue here, but it's gradually gaining. It's gradually gaining that response that you need, that conversation. But the sibling conversation is just opening up now, because now a lot of parents are having to, look in to see what they're missing out on, especially when it comes to the other kids in the house. So it's gradually getting there, but there's still a whole lot of issues to tackle.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done.
There's a lot of work.
and it's hard for people to admit that they have done something, like when I first realized, like, I've neglected them, and it wasn't something that I thought I was doing because I was thinking I was protecting them. And then to realize, like, they don't see it that way. As kids, like, they don't see it. They see that you're going to appointments with him all the time. You check him out of school to do this. They have to go do their homework. He doesn't have the same assignments and things. Yeah. And how how do you address something like that? How do you feel?
Yeah.
And they're still working on feelings, being a child,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have to address things that even adults have trouble dealing with.
Addressing, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm very,
Yeah. So you find kids in the home where they grew up faster and they're more empathetic than other kids.
Yeah.
They grew up really, really faster. And if you miss taking advantage of that, it's a very positive thing that they grew up faster. So if you miss taking advantage of that and helping them, their emotions tend to go towards more the neglect phase. So a lot of the time I try to explain to parents that one of the things that your child needs being part of this home is they need to know that as much as their sibling is special, they're also special. So you have to make sure that you're not having to put so much emphasis in just one child. They're just like every other normal sibling, but you have to include them in whatever it is you're doing. You have to make sure that that parentification that they already have is there. They're already mini parents. Even if you say it or you don't say it, their sibling is right there. So they're aware that something is wrong in a sense. They're aware when something is right. They're aware of all the landmarks. And whether you like it or not, they're going to be the longest living relatives, longer than you, because you're going to go and they're going to be here. So if you don't start that information and that curation and that support system and making sure that they also have an outlet, they have a social network that helps them, they have a support group that helps them, and away from you, because you don't have to censor everything, because they need to express themselves. They might not say everything where you're there, because the guilt, and there's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of emotional imbalance, because they're thinking, should I express myself this way? Should I not express myself this way? Is it right that I'm expressing myself this way? You need to make sure that they have the right outlets to be able to just pull all those things out there, and they're better adults.
So education, yes, educating and then supporting them. Yeah, that's pretty big. That's pretty big. And being able to help them find that network as a parent. Do you think that there's an age that you start this conversation with them? Like,
I would,
yeah, because I have twins that are 4.
For starters, what's the age group of your kids?
So I have a child. We have oldest son, he's 16. Then we have Christian, who's 15. Jada's 11. Caleb, who's about to come in and ask you some questions too, he's 13. And we have twins that are 4. And so the twins, it wasn't until the older kids, about 4 or 5 years ago, that I realized that I had been trying to protect them for so long that they already noticed things, but I wasn't educating them. I wasn't talking about what is autism, what is epilepsy, do you have any questions, what is a seizure, why does he take this medicine? And when I asked them, like, do you have questions, and they started just spilling out questions, and I was like, oh, wow. And Caleb at one point asked me, can I get medication? Why can't I take? And I'm at first angry, like, how dare you say something like that? Why would you say it? Why do you want to be sick? But it's like more, he gets the attention. He gets this extra care from you. And how can I balance that?
How can I tap into that?
And so at first I was really taken aback. And then I started, getting online and realizing, like, wow, there's other siblings that feel the exact same way. And okay, I need to take this on as a parent to make sure that I'm trying to find resources and help for them. But then it's like, how do you do that as a parent? What should we be looking for as a parent to be able to support that, other than support groups, which are really not present for siblings like that? There's not a lot of support out there. So
I think, so it's like just different age groups. You have to look at it from where they're coming from. So toddlers, I would say a good 4 or 5, especially when you see that they're being involved with their sibling. You need to start giving them with little prompts, so that they're not overdoing it, maybe over expecting their sibling to play the same way they would want to play. So you need to just give them that gradual, you can play with of course you can play with your brother, but don't push too hard, or don't, just little things. I would say from about 4 or 5. Once the child, especially when the child start asking you questions, that toddler age where everything to them is questions, just try to use different words. The words you would use for a toddler definitely has to be different from what you would use for, you know, a young adolescent like Jada now. You have to be more firm and more assertive, but not scary.
Okay.
You don't want to be scary because she's still having to, you know, she's still like in the middle water, you know, fairy tales and everything and reality. So you don't want to overwhelm an adolescent child with too much information as well. And then if it's an adult or pre-adult, maybe 16 above, you feel like, okay, they're confident enough, then you can start sharing your own fears with them at that age. Okay. You can start having them understand what mommy had gone through all of these other years. But this depends on every other child, because some children, you know, grow faster than other kids. So I know we have sibling supports group with young adults of 15 that are really, really, you know, already there, and we can have certain conversations with them, especially with what's going on with their parents. And then we have other 15-year-olds that we can have that conversation with. Okay. But most times when they're, you know, over 18, there's some conversations that we must have with them, especially depending on the family situation and depending on what's going on with the sibling as well. So there's some conversations you need to know that it's important that you have it regardless of what's going on. You need to make sure that they're informed, especially when it's your own health, you know, the other child, because most times we don't talk about the bigger picture, especially with transitions. We don't talk about the transition. As the child is transitioning in the home, they're transitioning as well. Yeah. So you need to make sure that you're not missing out on everybody's milestone, not just the child in question. You need to make sure that you're carrying everybody along, but you need to know how you're reinforcing it. So most times I would just tell parents, just separate it into 3 groups. Do you think this person is an adult? Do you think this is still an adolescent? And do you think this is still like, you know, still your baby? You don't want to scare them. You don't want to, you know, say certain things. And then, but start with the conversation. Don't ignore the questions. When the questions come, answer it.
Answer the question.
I've heard crazy questions from kids that are 6 and 7. I'm like, why do you, you know, it's scary, but this is their life. Yeah. This is their reality. And you can't take that away from them because they're in that home. So you need to know that it's not a situation where you're having to sneak in their sibling and sneak the sibling out. They will still catch you. Like, they will still catch you.
It's not something to hide. So this is something to hide. There's no shame, and we should be able to discuss these things openly and not project our fears as parents onto. And I think that's the thing that is like, I had struggled with for a long time, was projecting my fears, trying to protect them. And that failed terribly. And then you start to feel like a failure as a parent, and you sit in this mope, like this depressed state, but your children are always watching you. They're still here, they're still with you, and how to make sure that you're not taking away their experience by trying to know this is their life, like you said. This is their reality. This is our whole reality. We don't have to be like the Joneses or the next group. And some siblings, like I didn't grow up with siblings with a disability, so I didn't understand the differences. And I had to sit back and think like, oh wow, your life is so different than mine. And it's okay that it's so different. Like, it's all right. So, so I see it's like 4:30 here, 9:30 your time. So I want to be mindful of that. Do you have anything else? Right. Bye and go get Caleb for me so he can come and meet.
Bye.
Bye, darling.
I have one question that they have for you that's popped up. So let's see here. Here in Nigeria, there are several families who don't even know exactly what's going on with their special needs child or sibling. Yeah. My question is, how can we reach such families and give them proper advice and information? Ignorance in most of these cases is a major problem.
Yes. So one of the major problems I had growing up was that the information where I wanted it was more in the commercial areas in Nigeria. So I'm in Abuja. Abuja is the federal capital. Okay. The next big city is Lagos. And then the third one is Port Harcourt. These are the 3 major cities that seem to have all this information. And guess what? There are 36 states plus the FCC, so 37 states. how do you have just 3 states handling all of this other issues? So one of the biggest problem was that diversity. But now that we're all in a global village now, we can all connect easily. One of the things we're doing is free free WhatsApp classes for siblings and for parents to get them more informed, more educated, because the major factor is to get that knowledge. Okay. A lot of families, the person that asked that question, you're right. In Nigeria, people don't even know what it is. Even the right governmental and the right agencies, they don't know what it is. So they can't give that resources, they can't give that help. But what has happened is a lot of private entities and private NGOs and nonprofits have been the one pushing the conversation. So what I would advise anyone watching, especially if you live in Nigeria, try to get on either our WhatsApp or one of our social media handles. Send us a question, see if we can reach out to families all over. I'm from Delta State, so you're from Nigeria, I'm from Delta State, and I had zero resources growing up about my sister's condition and autism and all that. So one of the things I try to do is not focus on the major cities that already have this. I'm looking at reaching more to the rural areas, because it's crazy. And there's a lot of families that are not even, they don't even have the language. They have the language barrier. So maybe they don't speak English, or maybe they don't understand English. So we are looking at taking our courses to more traditional languages as well to reach more families. Yeah.
Well, we want to definitely help you with that and make sure that we connect and stay connected, because this is important.
Yeah, definitely.
To have. And siblings this is a global thing. That's not just in Nigeria.
We're global now, so great.
We are.
We have one of this.
Caleb has joined us. Hi
Caleb.
Caleb. How old are you? 13. And do you have any questions? You got something over there written down? Come on, come closer. Speak up. Don't be nervous. Yeah, you can read it. Put it down a little bit so you can see your face.
Okay. Were there any challenges with your sibling?
I can't hear you, honey.
Say it again.
Was there any challenges with your siblings?
Now with my neurotypical sibling, yeah, all the time. They were just boys and they got on my nerves. So that aside, but with my sister, no. The only challenge I had growing up with her was just communication. One of the things my mom used to teach us to do was to communicate the way she communicated and not the way we expected her to communicate. So we did more. She's a visual learner. So she learns more with pictures, and she learns more with, hand signals, until she was about 10, thereabouts. She wasn't verbal, Caleb. So we had to do a lot of prompts, but now she has more words. She's verbal now. She has language. So we talk better. But growing up, it was just that was just the only barrier. There was just that communication differences, but yeah, we grew into it.
Good question, Kayla. I like that. Keep going. You got anything else?
Did you ever feel like an outcast when you're by your friends that were
No. I was always that child that spoke up, because I felt like I was talking for 2 people. So I always spoke up, and I always made sure that anyone around me understood why I was speaking up, and it was for, my sister. So I didn't feel like an outcast. I made sure that I was very intentional about the friends I had, because of how my parents had trained us. My mom always told you have to be intentional with the people you call friends. Not everybody's going to be your friend. So I was very selective, and I was lucky that the friends that I was selective enough to have understood me enough to understand what my sister's condition was. So I didn't feel like an outcast. Yeah.
Do you ever feel like an outcast with your friends? Not really? Okay. All right.
Okay, that's great.
Did your sibling ever help you when you were down? Or
yes, all the time. My sister is a big hugger. She's a big hugger. So once I walk through the door, the first thing she does is hug me. And even if I'm coming with a foul attitude, or that just calms me down. So emotionally, she's a big plus for me because she's an empath. So a lot of the time she would come give me a head rub, or she would just ask me, 1,000 times, how are you? How are you doing? And that helps because it's different when someone just asks you once, Caleb. And it might not be coming from the right place. But if someone asks you, like, if your mom asks you, how are you, Caleb? How are you, Caleb? You tend to say what it is. So when she does that, it helps me, and I, just open up and say everything out. So she helps me all the time. She does.
Christian ever help you? No. You say Christian doesn't help you. Anything else you want to share?
Like, did your sister ever like what game did y'all play? Like board game?
Okay, so music. We do a lot of music corners. I don't know if you know what that is. So she knows a lot of songs. I don't know songs. I don't know the lyrics. So she knows them because one of the things that she does is music therapy. It helped her with her vocal cords when she was doing therapy. So they would put on, she would put on a headphone and she would listen to music. So it helped her learn the lyrics. So we would do the lyrics. It's like Shazam. We would do the lyrics, and she always knows the song. I don't know the song, so yeah, we play that all the time. And then we play cards as well. She likes cards as well, so we do cards. Are there games you play with your brother?
We sometimes play with Legos.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Tag. Yeah, it's using it.
Caleb, do you have any concerns about your brother that you want to talk about?
Like when he has seizures, yeah, that's
How does that make you feel?
pretty terrified, like scared.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Speak up a little bit.
He once had a continuous seizure, like he kept going, and he had to go to the hospital. That was
Would it make it better for you if you have other friends that maybe have brothers like yours? So would it be easy for you to talk to them than talk to your other friends if you have other? Yeah, would it? Okay. Would you like that, to speak to like other peers your age that have siblings? Yeah. Okay, great. We'll make that happen.
We'll make that happen. That's right. That's right.
Somebody asks, what are the symptoms for
Microphilia?
Yeah.
I don't know the symptoms for microphilia. We have people asking questions a little bit of everywhere. So. Hello, guys. If you're joining us on Instagram Live or on Facebook or on Zoom, I just want to say thank you, Ify, again, for being here. Caleb is here right now, and I don't have the answers for that, but we will find that information for you. So I'm not ignoring you.
Yeah.
I want to know from, let's see here. How do we combat the negative stigma associated with special needs in Nigeria? Some families hide their child with special needs.
So there's nothing, there's two things I always go with any problem. It's knowledge and action. Every problem. Right now, we're all suffering with the pandemic of the coronavirus. If we knew the knowledge of it, we would know the actions to take. We're kind of like, we just had to figure it out as we go. That's why we're still where we're at. So every single problem, it's a knowledge problem and an action problem. In Nigeria, the major issue is the knowledge problem. That is the first thing we need to combat. And the first people we need to make sure have that knowledge is the family. Not even the schools, not even the agencies, not even the government, is the family. If you don't have the family responding to this problem the way they should respond to it, there's no way they're going to get the right agencies to do the right thing. There's no way they're going to be able to advocate to the right educators or the right therapists or the right, everyone involved in special needs. The first outlet is the family. If we're not putting the resources to educate the family, educate the siblings, get parents more mental health care, make sure they're okay, make sure they understand what it is that's going on with their siblings, we're not doing anything. So it's not even going too far. Oh, we don't have a diagnosis center, or we don't have schools. It's this child, where they're going to be for the rest of their life, where they are right now, the family. Do the family understand what's going on? Are they getting the right resources? Is the family getting the right support? Is the family getting the right grants? Are they getting the right concessions? If we're not helping the family, we're not doing anything. That's the truth.
So everything starts at home.
Everything starts at home. Everything is closed now. Guess what didn't close? Your family.
We're all in
this. Closed. We're all here. Nothing. There was no shut down the family, close up.
In fact, they said stay with your family, wherever you're at.
Stay with your family.
With the same people.
Stay with your family. So the right information, especially for adult siblings that maybe for somewhere like Nigeria now have more information or have more outlet for information. They're the best people that can educate the parents for the parents to do the right actions. So you need to be an interventionist in your home. You need to get your parents to do that thing that they haven't done, seek that information, get them to, okay, yeah, you've been in denial all this while. Can we end this now and face facts? So a lot of the time people ignore how much impact siblings have, because siblings are the glue to the present and the future. You're not going to be the longest relative. Your siblings, the children in the home, they're the longest relative. So if you're not doing the right thing by informing them, you're not doing anything. You're really not doing anything.
I love that you said that, because that is definitely something that a lot of parents in our families, I see, that's something that we struggle with, is what are the questions that we should be asking the siblings? Yeah. How do we include them in these conversations, even at doctor's appointments? Like I see, at first I would have them waiting in the waiting room, and then I'm like, come on back. And sometimes they'll have questions for the doctor themselves, and what is it? Or, Mom, Christian knows how to do that. Don't do that for him. Like, he can do it. Give him a chance. And they'll push me to kind of release certain things. And I'm like, no, he can't. And he's like, he's not going to learn if he doesn't try, And it's like, he's my brother. Like, just let him do it. Just let him
do it.
I'm thinking I'm protecting them again. And I'm like, no, it didn't work. And now, okay, he's listening. And, they're trying to, I'm thinking that I'm doing the right thing. And they're like, no, Mom, like, just let us help out. Let us do something. And so their voice is so powerful, just like you were saying, voice within the family, listening to the siblings.
Listening to the sibling, getting them to understand the fact that you want the siblings in the home to be involved. It's not like you're looking for a replacement for you.
Right.
It's not like, because for a lot of parents end up having to have the child be dependent on them because they feel like they're doing the child a favor to save them. But a lot of the time when the sibling comes in, they have a different authority. Their parent, they act like parents, but they're more independent parents. They want their siblings to be independent. They want that for their parents. So a lot of the times when I have siblings intervene in a situation, I find they're more hands-on than the parents, because the parents are all worried and scared and 360-degree going, and the sibling is like, yeah, he can do it. Yeah. And I'm like, listen to that child. That child knows what he's talking about, because that's his sibling. He gets it. If you want to know how to treat them, just look at the sibling. And you need to understand that every single child in the home is going to act a different way to their sibling. They're going to handle what's going on in a different way. But what you don't want them to handle it out of fear. Yeah. That is the one thing you don't want. The way I handled my sister's condition was learning. I'm already an academic. And for me, I just wanted to guzzle all the knowledge, find out what this was, go for some training. There was never free training that I passed off as a teenager. There was never free training. If I saw it online, I did it. If it were somewhere, I did it. I'll travel up North London, I'll travel down South London, because for me, that was how I understood the condition. The more I knew, the easier it was for me to, you know, take care of her, attend to her, and inform my parents, because this was information that wasn't in their circle, but it was in my circle, and it was easy for me to gain it. So a lot of the time, having to explore that place of, okay, how is this sibling handling this? You need to know how they're handling it as a parent. You need to know what it is that it's shaping their future to be, because they're also in transition. So you can't just let it, you know, ignore it, or just feel as though, oh, this is not something I need. You need to know what the impact is. I've had siblings that have become estranged from their siblings because there was never that inclusion. There was never that love. There was never that, oh, you're part of this. So they felt their parents wanted them to just go away, and they just went away. So you can't start calling them back in their 40s and because you think they're not adults. They don't know. They've never had that inclusion. So they can't just materialize it. You have to start now, when they're still at this age where you can form their mind and shape their reality and make them understand, this is your sibling. This is what is going on. I'm not expecting anything from you, but I want you to be informed. I want you to know, you know, you're part of this. I want you to know, I mean, you chose your husband. You chose to have a child. They didn't choose this. That's the truth.
That is
they
the
didn't
truth.
choose this. That is the truth.
And the information helps with that fear.
Information helps.
You don't know things. You get really fearful. You act out of those fear. That's an emotion. And all of these behaviors that come after that, it's a lot of
It's crazy. Yeah. So you need to know how to address it. And every single child is different. So it's not about calling like a round table, all of you. No, you need to know this child, what is their temperament? How can I approach this? What is their age? How concerned, you know, how involved do they want to be? Some of the best advocates I've met, especially in special needs, are siblings. Because for them, it's not something they're having to learn out of a passion. It's something they've lived with all their lives. So it's part of their life. It's part of their everyday living till they die. They would always have a sibling. So you need to know how they've consumed that information, what is driving them, what is informed. And the best ones are the ones that are informed. The best ones are the ones that can relate with, oh, my parents did not exclude us from what was going on with our sibling. We're all part of it. We're all strengthened, because you also need to know that the strength they have sometimes is bigger than your strength, because as a parent, you're so overwhelmed by the reality of this, that sometimes you miss out on the blessings and the fun. They get to have some sort of fun with their sibling that you might never even tap into. Yeah. So you need to know what it is that they go through on a daily basis. You need to know how they're consuming that information and how they're having to deal with it and how they want to see the future. Because a lot of the time, the realities and the foundation we have and where we come from shapes us. So you can't take it away from them, because this is their reality. So you need to know what is going on with them. So
asking questions. Providing information, looking for information. Yeah. Like, this is all things parents do to better support their siblings and their families.
Very much.
Like, is it too late ever?
No, it's never. It's never too late. It's a bit different when it's a sibling that's estranged, but it's never too late, and it's never something you can wish away. You have a sibling. Yeah. So it's they're part of their lives already. They're part of their lives, even if they're not as involved or they're not as committed to being in that space where they're either maybe a legal guardian. It doesn't matter. That should not always be the case, because every single person have their own life to live as well. But if that child has that commitment to, oh, this is my sibling, that's enough. That's enough groundwork to start with. You just need to make sure that they have the right information, and you also need to know that the world outside, it's not always nice. People are not always nice, and they might have a different experience to what you would experience as a parent with stigma. Their own experience might be 10 times worse than yours, because you might be able to explain it and they might never be able to explain it. So you need to make sure that whatever it is that is shaping them from the outside, the inside is steady, the inside is stable. Once the inside in the family is stable, they can handle everything outside. They just need to know that you're part of their own transition. They're not being ignored, you know, they're being edified, and they're being, you know, being told the truth. I have a friend that had a sibling with Down syndrome. And we were friends from when we were kids. And it wasn't until I was in university that I realized that she had a brother that had Down syndrome. And it was really weird to me because we grew up together, but there was no time that was mentioned. There was no time I got to see her sibling out. And she just said to me, oh, you know, what you're doing has really inspired me. My brother lives, you know, in the different hometown with my grandparents, and we didn't grow up with him because, you know, my parents worked and they just couldn't keep him. So they just left him with my grandparents. So I've not had that relationship with him to understand, but I'm looking at, you know, reaching out and seeing how I can bring that in. And she's now his legal guardian. We helped her with her legal documentation from the law firm. She's now his legal guardian, and he lives with her and her husband. And guess what? All of her fears that her husband was not going to accept him, her husband loves him. Wow. Loves him, has kept him, you know, taking care of him. And he now has, you know, he's now in the urban area, and he's having to get all that resources that he couldn't get in the rural area. So it's all about how you present those things. If you're a parent and you're having to hide the child, and you're not doing anybody any favor. You're not doing anybody any favor. This child is already here. Yeah. The only thing you can do is see how much love you can give this child. There's nothing a little love, a little knowledge and understanding and acceptance cannot do. Nothing.
I love that. Thank you for that. You're speaking to parents out here, you're speaking to siblings that are out here, even community, and how do we put this together? And this next question is, where are there opportunities in regards to community collaborations with local and international agencies that are being explored in regards to this in Nigeria? Do you have?
There's a whole lot. We're big on collaboration. I'm one of those people that believe that there's nothing you can do with just, you know, with just you. You always need other people. You need other reach. So we're a big collaboration, and there's a whole lot of other centers and NGOs and nonprofit that I collaborate with. So the information is there. If you want to do something with us, if you feel you have something that you can contribute to it, reach out to us. We'll put on the information on the chat, yeah, and just reach out, either, you know, Instagram or WhatsApp or whatever. We'll reach out to you, but there's always collaboration. If it's something that's going to be beneficial, if it's something that's going to be informative, we're always there. And you need to know that a lot of nonprofits, they're willing to collaborate. They are, because right now everyone's looking at, you know, you're looking out and you're seeing that you can't do this alone. You can't reach out alone. It's not even possible. It's not even possible. There's so much that needs to be stretched, and you can't reach everybody. So you need other people to advocate for you, but you need to make sure that you have the right structure and you have the right reasons why you're doing those things as well. Not just because you want to collaborate or you want to have a nonprofit. Yeah. These are people's lives. These are people's lives. These are living people's lives that is going to impact them. So if you're doing it for clout, or you're just doing it because you want, you're not going to reach, you know, you're not going to reach the right people. You need to make sure that whatever it is you're doing, if it has to be in that nonprofit scene, do it for the right reasons. Reach out, send emails. I send emails all the time, so you can email, you know, random people. I email Janet. Just email people, especially people you feel connect with you. It was just, I saw a post that you had posted, and I was like, yeah, reach out to her. That's, for me, you reach out, fine. You don't reach out, fine. I believe that if you're doing the right work, you will get to meet the right people. You will get that notice. You don't need to, you know, keep banging on doors. There's some doors that all you need to do is just stay put and do the right work, and someone else will come and open the door for you.
They'll find you. Yes.
They'll find you. So just keep doing what you're doing. Reach out to us if there's something you feel like we need to work on. Yeah, let's do something.
And we will definitely share all this information. We're going to send everybody that sent their emails and make sure that we send you all of her information and our information, because this is a continued conversation. This is not one time. This is not one country. This is a global thing that's going on.
Global.
It's global. And so this is not this is not just a one-time issue.
Yeah.
And you're going to be learning constantly. You're just going to keep learning. So don't ever feel like it's a shame not to have an answer.
Yeah.
Just don't stop looking. Keep searching, keep trying to find out. And if you don't have the answer, somebody has the answer. And if we don't have it, we're going to keep searching and finding and looking for answers.
We're going to get the answer to you.
Okay. One last question. You want to say anything? Anything else, baby? I'm here quietly. Would you like to ask anything else before I ask another question from somebody else? Would you like to say anything? You don't have to. No pressure.
Thank you for talking with us.
Aw, thank you, Caleb. Do you feel better that there are other siblings like you out there? Yeah?
Yeah.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna make sure you have that peer group so you can talk to other people. One of the things I felt like growing up that maybe would have helped was if I had more peers that understood what it was that I was going through as well. I had my own siblings. We would bounce off, what it was that was going on with us, and but we didn't have that outlet because nobody was doing that. Nobody was giving that support, especially to siblings. And even now, because the first time I moved back to Nigeria, that was the first thing I was looking out for. I was looking at other peers, and I didn't see that. So I thought it just wouldn't make any sense for there not to be sibling peers. So we have a program we're going to start in July. It's going to be a 3-part sibling leadership network. So it's going to be for supervised under 15s with parents and siblings. And then 15 to 17, we're going to have that group. And then we're going to have like an adults group as well. Just siblings, whatever disability, just get them more emotional support and, just comfort support, and then educational skills support as well. And then whoever, any adults that's looking at maybe more of the legal side, then we can maybe push you up to our special needs legal units as well.
Well, that's fantastic. That's awesome. I'm glad y'all are doing that, and I can't wait to learn more and get more involved. So, okay, we got one last question here. I know it's 5 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Are services such as speech therapy and occupational therapy offered in Nigeria? And if so, are they readily available in schools or only in private practice? Is there a way to educate the masses through public service announcements or such so that Nigerians are aware that there are services that cater to children with special needs?
Yeah, there are services. A lot of them are privately provided. The government schools, they do have some sort of inclusion, but it's not, the resource is very, very limited. So the resource do not go up a bound. And I don't know about national information spreading now, but that's a good thing, because we looked at that before. One of the problems that we have here in Nigeria is before now, everybody was just doing their thing. Everyone was just doing their thing and trying to maybe not call their own glory, but it kind of seemed like, oh, my organization and my own skills and my own, that's not going to work anymore. We all have to come together. You can't be one voice if you're all not united. So we need to get more one voice. For the radios, we do a lot of radio station advocacy. So we do a lot of prompt jingles on radio, just to get that out there. And we've done some TV campaigns as well. But one thing we're looking at, and maybe that's what she's asking as well, we're looking at collaborating with hospitals, especially the national hospitals, so we can have like sub-centers, referral centers, where they can send, families there, and then we can do all the, maybe do like the more in-depth information, because sometimes when you ask them, they tell you they don't have that funding. So it's very limited, the resources that families get, because a lot of families, if not all families here, are having to pay out of pockets. There's nothing like go and do an assessment, or you get an ABA, assessment officer like in the UK come, check you out. No, there's nothing. Every single family here in Nigeria, you're paying out of pocket. So a lot of the time, there's no concession. So most times, families just feel as though, oh, they're having to spend money for what they don't know. So they'll rather not spend the money. That's where the whole religion and spirituality, yeah. comes up. But there are a lot of NGOs and nonprofit out there that are having to put out the information and having to, spread that word. There are big organizations in Nigeria that, including ours, that are doing that information, but there's still so much to be done because, there's still that gap. Yeah. So we'll just keep pushing.
We'll keep pushing. We're not quitting, that's for sure. We're not quitting.
We have to keep pushing, that's all. Great.
You do your support groups and stuff. Do you find that would be something that would be nice in like schools there?
Oh yeah. So we have a program. It's called Inclusion Day. You can't see this, but it's like the whole thing. It's called Conscious Inclusion Day. And one of the things we started was like a debate club. Okay. So we're going into schools, mainstream schools that either do not have any sort of inclusion or do not have any information on special needs, and we're having them debate on subjects that talk about inclusion and talk about all disabilities, all types of disabilities, and have them start up that riot to speak to their own student body and other people there. So if we can't get the admins and get the owners of the school to have that, we want the children to have that knowledge.
Yes.
So that's one thing we've been doing. And it's not just schools, religious centers, churches, because the information needs to go out. So yeah, that's one thing we're doing, but we're looking at expanding it more to get more people in, especially kids. It's so important that you shape the mind of a child to understand what it is that's going on, especially with other children and special needs, or they're just going to end up as adults that, not trying to do anything.
Yeah. And, that's something that I've seen with some siblings that have come and reached out is that when they get older, it goes one of two ways. They're either involved or trying to figure out, or they don't want to do anything with it. Yeah. And there's a lot of guilt that comes with those decisions either way. Yeah. And how you were talking about your friend who is married now. I've heard that some siblings have problems even finding significant others, and how that puts a strain on relationships. I mean, that's a whole nother thing, sure. But I'm just encouraged to see and to hear that there's support out there. And for siblings, do you find that siblings as adults still require that same type of support and that support network?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially if they've never had any supports, then they really need to have the support, because there's so many skills and maybe so many information that they might have missed out on. So for, like I was saying to you, you need to know when to say certain things to a child, not just because they're a child. So for adults, issues like dating and having to talk about their sibling and marriage and how, caregiving in the future. Those are information that we talk about, because you need to know now going forward all the other issues that might come up with an in-law and come up with a significant other and come up with his own family or her own family. Not everyone's going to accept your sibling on the go. So you need to have those conversations with adults. And I think there's a huge fear, especially maybe with the ladies when it comes to settling down, especially if they have a sibling that they are really close to. They kind of always feel as though, oh, I'm not going to find someone that would, that's not true. That's not true. There are amazing people out there that even if they've not had siblings or had that experience, they understand, and they want to be part of that life as well. There's a support group on Facebook for sib-in-laws. I don't know if you know that, for sib-in-laws. Yeah, so it's I mean, the first time I was like, this is great, because there's some things I don't want to explain to my significant other. I just want him to go there and go and learn, go and talk about it. But that information, those are information that you need to now, when your kids are adults, you need to have the conversation with them. You need to know what's going on in their dating life and whether or not they're bringing, the condition of their sibling to that forefront. It's not something you can hide. Yeah. It's not something you can hide. That's a whole human being. You can't just,
and that's fine. Like, that's something that, that's something that's passed down, because even parents, they'll feel like they need to hide it. Parents and family members Like I can remember like you have family members that no one's really talked about anymore, or you know, whatever happened to Uncle such and such or aunt. And it's like they could have had something and we didn't know and nobody talked about it or
nobody talks about it.
And it's like we're not doing that anymore. Like this is
especially the way marriage is seen here in Africa and most Black communities, especially in the States. You're getting married to the family, not just the person. So it's so important that you make sure that you were also looking at that aspect for the siblings. What kind of spouse are they going to get married to? You know, what kind of people are they dating? Are they people that I've heard stories of, you know, really, really heartful stories about how people have treated, you know, someone, not even because of them, but because of their sibling. And those are issues that you would think a parent would, you know, talk about, and they wouldn't talk about it. So it's, I've had a family, they went through some really, really terrible issue when the daughter wanted to get married, and the parents of the boy just said no. And it had nothing to do with the girl. And they just, the fear, and it was like, oh, you know, we don't want this to be passed down to his kids. And you're like, it's not a disease. But for them, that is something that they already have a stigma. They already have a social notion about. They weren't even looking to get to know him. They weren't getting to understand the conversation. They just said no, and it ended the whole relationship. You know, the marriage didn't go forward. And she was like, I can't not have my brother. This is my only sibling. I can't not have him in my life. So we have to decide. It was so hurtful, but she ended up, you know, just having to leave that relationship because of that. Wow. And it was, for me, it felt so terrible that it wasn't even her spouse to be that had the issue. It was her in-laws, and it was something that could have easily be dealt with if they had better knowledge or if they had better information. And, you know, when I dialogued with her and we did some sessions, we did some counseling sessions for her, and she said, oh, we never talked about this. I never spoke about this with my mom. We just never thought it was ever going to be an issue. So it's still having those conversations that you as a parent might totally ignore. So most times I've had friends from all over. I have a friend, she's Moroccan, and she said to me, for the longest time, I didn't want to get married. I said, why? She said, because, you know, my sister lives with me, and I just didn't think anyone would ever understand. I just took up marriage from my mentor. I just took it out and said this was never going to happen. And I'm like, why? But this was her reality, because for her, she already saw how her community treated, you know, her sister. And she just felt anyone coming from that community was also going to be like that. Yeah. So it still goes to show you that there's so much neglect to the sibling concern. There's so much neglect to what we think as parents or educators. It's so hard for you to think that this doesn't matter because you feel like they're okay. You feel like, oh, they're normal, they're all right. Everything that's going on with you as a parent, everything that's going on with their sibling, guess what? It's like twofold. They're in the middle. And they're just having to face everything. And if you're not telling them the right things, if you're not giving them the right information, someone else outside is going to bully them. Someone outside is going to hurt them. Someone outside is going to make something that they see in the home as beautiful, ugly. So you need to make sure that you give them, and you make sure that you give them all of the information, all of the love to start with. Even if there are outside resources, you as a parent, you need to make sure that your child understands that their sibling is part of their life, is a blessing, and is part of, you know, who makes them who they are going forward. First and foremost, we need to start from the home. So I really hope that any parents watching this, if you've never spoken to your child, just take it with doses. Take it with doses. You don't need to, okay, they've said I need to talk to you. Let me just tell you everything. No, take it in doses. Take it in doses.
You're like overwhelmed with information.
You know, they said I should talk to you and tell you what's going on. Take it in doses. You need to know where that child is at. You need to know what experience they might have. You'll be so shocked with what they've experienced, especially if it's an adult. You'll be so shocked what it is that they've carried for so long and not told you, because they have their own pain related to this. They have their own concerns related to this. And if it's a home that they don't have the confidence to talk to their parents, how are they going to come and tell you about their feelings about this? You've not even given them the outlet to talk to, about normal things. How do you think they're going to come and talk to you about this? So you need to make sure that you are watchful of, what you say around them and what you do around them when it has to do with their sibling. If they have genuine concerns, take it as genuine concerns. If they have fears about what's going, take it as fears. Don't come and say nothing is wrong with you, that's not your problem. It's not happening to you. It is happening to them. Every single moment they're in that house, it is happening to them. It's just happening in a different way. They're not outside looking in, they're inside looking in. So you need to make sure that they're part of what's going on in that family, even to the point that they're part of the decision making. I was still a teenager when my parents used to include me in decisions, and because they just felt that I knew what it was. So from a very young age, I became an interventionist in the house. I would say, oh no, she doesn't like that. She doesn't want to wear that because she tries out my clothes. She tries out my shoes. So I know what she likes. Yeah. Even before my parents, there's some things my mom will buy and I'm like, yeah, she's not going to wear that. And you as a parent.
Sounds like him with me telling me stuff. He's like, Christian that's not what he wants. I'm like, I have the answer. He's like, Mom, just listen to me. So
you have to listen.
I have to do a better job. So I'm going to do a better job. Okay, I don't have all the answers either. And I think even as parents, realizing that we don't have all the answers, which we already know, but you have to portray this image as a parent to have it all together. And you can have it all together and still not have all the information. And that's okay. Because I've told the kids before, I'm like, I have to apologize for how I came off with you, because it wasn't you and it wasn't your brother, there are other things. But then they'll take all of this information in. Like I could get a bad report from the doctor and then I'm just like in this mood and they're like, okay, we're not talking to her. And then later it come out and I'm like, so let me just apologize. And it's okay to say you're sorry to your
it's really, really okay.
And it's
it's really, really okay. But you really, really have to, because they're there. Where are they gonna go? They're there. They're right there. Even if they're in boarding school or if they're in university or they're married, they're still there. They're in that home. If they grew up in the same home, if they even just have a knowledge that they have a sibling somewhere, they're there. So you can't wish it away. You can't ignore it. You can't, you cannot say, oh, how is it? They're there. And they're the only, they're the only part of the family that honestly did not choose to be there. So you might as well make sure that they know that they're there for a good reason and you're not having to make them wish they were not there.
And that they're important. Like they actually, they're very important too.
Very, very important.
Their school stuff is important. Their friends are important. Being involved are important. Yeah. These are all important things to them. Mm-hmm. And we have to acknowledge that as parents.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, I have a question. What would you say to parents who are having siblings that don't get along? Because you have siblings that your brother has a disability. Maybe there's things that, how do you address those issues, or how do you encourage parents to address those issues with their, because my brother, he can't control it. So now I feel like I have to deal with that. So what would you say to a parent like that?
Yeah, so we were talking earlier and I was telling you every single sibling handles it very differently. It's the same thing. Every sibling handles it differently. But you as a parent, you need to know which child is more approachable to something and which child isn't. And it's not about fussing it, down any child's throats. Even just, siblings, there's always sibling rivalries. So you need to take control and know, okay, fine, this is how this person handled this. Have a proper dialogue with that child. Get to understand what the concerns is, because most time there is always a concern why they're acting the way they're acting, or why they're dressing it the way they're dressing it. So you need to know how it is. You can't force them to get along. That's the truth. You can't force them to get along. If they don't get along, they don't get along. But you need to get them to understand they're all part of the same family. They're all going to be, you know, your priority. They're all going to be part of what makes, you know, you guys a home. So it's not about trying to infuse that love so much. Some siblings just don't get along. That's the truth. They just don't get along. But you still need to make sure that they have the right information, that you've done your own job. You've done the right job, making sure that their worries just, you know, pushed aside because things are not going the way you as a parent would expect it to go. But you just need to make sure that you're not having to spoon feed them to suit yourself. You're not having to make it for your, you know, make it happen for you the way you want it to happen for you. If they don't get along, they don't get along. But you need to make sure that you're having separate conversations and you're not having to, you know, make them feel guilty for not getting along. It might just be, everybody have different temperaments. It might just be the temperament doesn't match. Oh, you see some siblings, yeah, they just don't get along. And it also happens with siblings that has another sibling with a special needs. It doesn't mean that because they have a sibling with a special needs, they should accept the sibling. They just don't get along. You need to know that as a parent going forward, that all of my kids, especially if you have more than one in the home, they're all going to handle this differently. If you're lucky and they all handle it the same way, kudos to you. I don't know what you're doing. Tell us what you're doing. But they're all going to handle it differently. But the most part is that you don't ignore the fact that they still need support. That they still need you as a parent to not hold up as if you know it all, or hold up as if, you know, you're not growing. You're growing in this as well. You're growing in this as well. A good 99% of, you know, special needs families, they didn't know they were going to be special needs families. Right. So you're growing in this as well. And you need to have your kids, you know, your children understand that you're growing in this as well. Yeah. You don't have to show them all your fears and all your anxieties at once. But if they get to an age, like my parents now, they're my friends. We're no longer like headbutting, and they're my friends. So I can have an honest conversation now with my mom and ask her about, you know, how you feeling about this and how is this making you feel and whatnot. So this lockdown, my sister had traveled to Delta for holiday. She was meant to come back after Easter, and she's still there. And, you know, I'm having to ask my mom, like, you didn't plan for her to be, you know, there for this long. How are you? How are you feeling? Because you have your own, you know, health concerns and work concerns. So how are you feeling? So we're having to have that conversation every day, because I need to also make sure that as much as we're having this conversation for myself, for my sister, also my parents, every single person in the home needs to make sure that they're all having those conversations and that they're having it without judgment. You know, you're having to be free. Space to be able to just have this dialogue. Say whatever you say, and take off those defenses. Like, it's okay. These aren't attacks to you as a sibling, as a parent, on what you don't know or what you do know. We're not fighting. We're on a team together. We're on a team, exactly. This is a big team. This is the best team and the longest team you're gonna have for the rest of your life. So let's make it work. Let's just make it work. Everybody get on. Let's get along. What would you say? Okay. Oh, wow. It's all 10:30 your time, 5:30 my time. So I just want to ask one more question, and then I'll let you share how people can reach you. Yeah. If it's a supporter, maybe they don't have a sibling, maybe they don't know anybody with a disability, maybe they're just outside looking in and they're trying to figure out, how do I approach a family or friends? What do I say? Even addressing, like I would say, even asking, acknowledging the other children. Because a lot of times people will ask me about Christian, and it's like, there's other siblings here. And if they're all here, even as a doctor in the office, and you just ask, how are you? Are you okay? And I think people need to hear that, and they need to know
what can we just ask, how are you doing? Should we even ask, how are you doing? Are you okay? You know, how you were mentioning earlier with your friend asking those kind of questions.
Yeah.
You know, just give us some feedback on that aspect. If you're an outsider, not even a family member, but an outsider.
Yeah, like just every day. So like one thing I think would help is if you understand that empathy is not pity. I think that's one thing a lot of people don't understand. That empathy is not pity. These families, they don't need your pity.
Right.
For you to have the right empathy, what they want is for you to be, you know, let your empathy be something bigger than pity. Most times people come at you and say, how are you doing? Because they pity you.
Right.
Not because they're empathetic about what's going on with you, not because they want to help you, not because they, you know, they want to see how they can be part of your situation. They just feel as though, oh, it's that, you know, thank God it's not happening to me. So if you first of all decide what it is, why you want to approach that family, decide why you want to ask how they're doing. If it's out of pity, just keep it to yourself. Just keep it to yourself. But if it's out of curiosity to understand how to help or how to be part of this bigger picture and how to, you know, be friends, it's okay. Just ask how they're doing and then try as much as possible. If there are other kids, ask about all the kids. Don't focus on this one child. Ask about the mom. Don't focus on that. You can just ask her about, you know, what you're doing with your hair, and, you know, ask her something aside the child. By the time, you know, she's certain that you're not coming at her with pity, she's going to be open to you. It's going to be easy for her to relate to you. So most times I would advise people, if you truly want to know how, especially family, or don't come at the child. You can go around it. Don't just focus on the child. If you say how, you know, you can ask how the child is doing, but also look at other aspects of the house. I mean, for me, I don't necessarily need you to come help me with my sister, but I might need you with the gardening. Yeah. I might need you with groceries. You know, I might need you to do a run for me for something else. So I might need you for so many things and not need you for that child. So if you focus so much on that child, you miss the point of what you want to do to help the family. It could be that I want to have a spa day, and all I need for you is to take the other kids out and leave me with my baby, you know? So there's so many things that you can help with. There's so many ways that you can be part of understanding what the family is going through, and you can be part of, you know, that transition for them. But if you focus so much on that child, you miss out on every other person in the home that you could possibly be a friend to, or you could possibly, you know, impact in one way or the other. I have a friend that used to come and take my sister out for ice cream randomly. Like, she would just pop up at my apartment and be like, I'm taking her out for ice cream. Guess what? Most of the time, I didn't really do anything with the time they were gone, but I had like 1 hour to just, you know, chillax and be like, oh yeah. And we got close by her just doing that on the random. We got so close by her doing that on the random. It wasn't something I was asking her to do. Most times it wasn't even something that she was, you know, planning to do. She would come around and she'd be like, you don't like ice cream, but Boo Boo likes ice cream. So you know what? We're going to take a drive. We're going to go get ice cream and come back. And my sister's like, hop in the car. She's gone. I'm like, look at what. So, but it helped her understand that I needed that. I didn't necessarily need her to ask me about how I was doing, you know, doing with her. I just needed someone to do something else, because most times, most parents already have it figured out for that child. If it's a parent that's very intentional about the child, maybe medicals or school, they have it kind of figured out. So they don't necessarily need you to ask so much about the child, because it's like repeating what they already, you know, have planned for the child. But for other kids, now you see that they might be missing out on so many other things. So if you come in and be like, oh, I'm going to start taking your kids out to the cinema, that's a big, you know, that's something they might need. They just need you to, you know, come in, take the kids out for something, or go do something for them. So try as much as possible to, you know, just be structured about why you want to be part of this family, why you want to find out what's going on with this family. Don't do it because you just, you know, don't do it out of pity. They don't need your pity.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because it's a big difference between pity and empathy and being present with somebody. And
Ooh.
that makes a big difference, because that's something that I'm immediately like, I don't feel sorry for me. And even
Exactly.
don't feel sorry for me. I love my brother. What do you mean? Like, what do you mean? And I'm like, so I think that was really poignant that you said that. So I appreciate you saying that. And I just want you to tell everybody how they can reach you. How can they find you? Where can they find you at? Let them know.
So we are in Abuja, Nigeria. So we're in the federal capital, and we have an office in Wuse, if you know Abuja. And you can find us on Instagram. Instagram is our most active social media handle, but all of our social media handle is SOS Needs NG. On Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, it's Siblings of Special Needs Nigeria. So you can find us on all of those platforms. Our WhatsApp, I don't want to say the wrong number, WhatsApp number is 080-221-1113. So that's our helpline number. And then you can email us, especially if you're a nonprofit and you're looking at these aspects of special needs. It's sosneedsng@gmail.com. But we're going to leave those information as well in the chat. And yeah, thank you so much for having me, Jen.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. I've learned so much. And it's just, I can't wait to get to Nigeria and meet you, and UK and meet you and come and
I know, it was so sad, because I was just in Atlanta. I probably would have been able to see you. So you need to come to Nigeria, because it's a very, very different ballgame from what you've heard or seen. It's very beautiful.
I hear, like, the media doesn't depict it quite accurately at all, I'm sure.
No, they don't. We just have our issues, but we're the place to be. Nigeria's the place to be.
Well, I look forward to coming. And thank you all for joining us today on Siblings Speak.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, we will be back next Friday. So definitely check us out next Friday, and we'll have another sibling on and sharing. I will let you guys all know where to reach Ify at. And thank you again, Ify, for being a part of this conversation with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Love to the kids. Bye.